All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to a moment of, well, total darkness. I want you to picture this, a city under siege, a whole kingdom on the absolute brink of extinction, and its people just convinced they've been forgotten. It's right there, in that exact moment of collapse, that one of the most powerful prophecies of hope ever is delivered. This is the story of a promise that was made in the dark.
So, this is the question on literally everyone's lips in Jerusalem, right around 586 BC. And you can just hear the despair in it, can't you? They're looking out at the Babylonian army surrounding their walls, they're watching their monarchy just crumble to dust, and they're asking, is this it? Is it over? Has God really actually cast us off? You see, this wasn't just some political crisis. No, this was a full-blown crisis of faith. They were sure the promise had failed.
And that right there brings us to the central question of this whole thing. I mean, when everything you can see and touch is being destroyed all around you, can a few words, just a promise, really make a difference? Is hope even a real thing when you're staring down starvation and exile? That's the tension, right? That's what we're going to explore.
Okay, so to really get the power of this promise, we first have to understand just how deep the despair was. So, let's set the scene.
Look, it's pretty much impossible to overstate how catastrophic this moment was. I mean, the royal line of King David, the one promised to be eternal, was about to be snuffed out. The Holy Temple, the very center of their worship and God's presence on earth, it was about to become rubble. From where they stood, it looked like every single sign of God's faithfulness was just being erased one by one. They weren't just losing a war, it felt like they were losing God himself.
And then, right in that moment of absolute, total hopelessness, the whole narrative takes this shocking turn. God speaks a word that cuts directly against everything they were experiencing.
Just look at the contrast here. The royal family tree is literally being chopped down, the dynasty looks totally dead, and yet God promises a new branch. See, he doesn't just promise to patch up the old system. No, he promises to grow something brand new, something righteous, right out of the dead stump of David's line. This isn't just a promise of survival, this is a promise of resurrection.
So what exactly is this branch of righteousness? Well, it's a messianic title. It's pointing to a future king who wouldn't just have the right bloodline, but would also have perfect moral character. This is a ruler who would bring true justice and righteousness, correcting all the corruption that led to the kingdom's fall in the first place. He's basically the ultimate answer to all their failed leadership.
And the outcome of this new king's rule? It would be completely transformative. The people will finally be safe. And get this, the city of Jerusalem itself will get a new name, the Lord our righteousness. Now this is so important because it signals that their security, their very standing before God, it's not going to come from their own efforts anymore. It's going to be a direct gift from God himself, embodied in this new ruler.
Okay, so if you're living in besieged Jerusalem, you're probably thinking, yeah, that sounds great, but how could I possibly believe it? Look around. Well, the next part of the prophecy is basically God's answer to that exact skepticism. This is the divine guarantee.
God basically doubles down on the two promises that seemed the most obviously broken. He reaffirms his covenant with David, that his royal line will be eternal. And then he reaffirms his covenant with the Levites, the priesthood, that essential connection between God and humanity, that it too will be eternal. He takes the two biggest symbols of failure and just flat out declares them unbreakable. And here's how he proves it. And it's absolutely brilliant. God uses this incredible analogy. He basically asks, hey, can you break my covenant with the day? Can you stop the sun from rising? Can you prevent night from falling? The answer, of course, is no way. And God's point is, only when you can break the fundamental cycle of creation itself, only then can my promise to David be broken.
So the crucial point is this: God anchors his promise not in the people's performance, which, let's be honest, had failed, but in the very fabric of the universe he created. The promise is as reliable as gravity, as certain as the dawn. It moves the whole guarantee away from just a subjective feeling and grounds it in an objective, observable reality.
And this promise isn't just for preservation, it's for multiplication. He uses the exact same language he gave to Abraham, promising descendants as countless as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Think about that. In their moment of near annihilation, God is promising them a future of just unimaginable abundance.
So how did this incredible promise, one that's literally anchored in creation itself, actually play out? Let's take a look at how this builds across history.
See, this wasn't just a one-and-done thing.
There was an initial historical fulfillment for sure. The people did return from Babylon, they were led by a descendant of David, and they did rebuild the temple. But the prophecy was pointing to something so much bigger. The ultimate fulfillment is found in a future messianic figure, someone who perfectly embodies both that eternal king and that perfect priest, fulfilling these promises once and forever, forever.
You know, after all the cosmic guarantees and the royal promises, the prophecy lands on this one simple, foundational reason for it all. Why? Why will God do this? Why restore his people after they failed so spectacularly? The text gives a one-word answer: mercy. That entire grand structure of restoration, it's not built on human merit, it's built on divine grace.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The prophecy in Jeremiah 33, it's not just some ancient text. It's a really profound statement about what hope is. It suggests that true hope isn't just wishful thinking, right? It's a conviction that's anchored in something absolutely unshakable. So the question for us is, if a promise can be so certain that it's woven into the very fabric of the universe, as certain as the rising sun, what does that say about how we can face our own moments of darkness?